So there's a lot of great affordable watches out there, but not a lot, I think, that truly push the envelope when it comes to watch design and the kind of custom components that they include in the watches. That sort of thing you typically found more in the luxury market, more higher end kind of stuff, which is why I was so surprised to see this watch from Lytt Labs. This is the Inception Prodigy, which we're going to be looking at today. And when I saw it, I was just blown away at like the level of custom components that they put into this. And then they actually delivered it at around a $500 price point. So I had assumed that this was going to be a much more expensive watch when I looked at the initial pictures of it. But they managed to deliver it at right around $500, which is amazing. Let's check it out. Hey everyone, this is Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch, and this is a channel about budget watch collecting, typically focusing on watches at around $500 and under, but we do occasionally jump up above that sometimes. So if you're interested in watches in that price range, definitely ask you to subscribe down below. Now today we're going to be taking a look at a pretty incredible looking watch from Lytt Labs, and this is one that they did send to me for free, so I get to keep it after the review, so keep that in mind as we go through this. Now, basically, every single component on this watch, as near as I can tell, is completely unique and custom to this watch. I'm sure there's some influences that they took from other places, but it looks like they had to custom design everything from the strap to the buckle, to the dial, to the handset, to the case. There's just so much stuff that is completely unique to this watch. It's kind of crazy to see that. Again, typically that's going to cost you a lot of money if you have to go and have every single component of the watch designed in-house and then manufactured specifically for that one watch. I would have thought that would have driven the manufacturing costs much higher. This kind of reminds me of some of the watches from like 7 Friday. But the style and design is completely their own. Like, to me, the thing that's so interesting about this watch is that, again, if you take any single component of it, it looks like it's unlike anything I've seen on any other watch. But taken as a whole, it clearly is a watch. It doesn't look like something that's not a watch, like it's a piece of art that you're wearing on your wrist and people are wondering what the heck that is. It's obviously a watch. It just doesn't look like a watch that has any like heritage or roots from anything else in this world that I've seen up to. It looks like something that they just reimagined the watch from the ground up, and it looks fabulous. It looks like something that you would see in like a science fiction film or a fantasy film or just some alternate universe where you'd see that and you'd be like, yeah, that's totally a watch, and it looks amazing, and it looks cool, but it doesn't look like anything else that I've seen. It has this really kind of futuristic, smooth vibe to it. And I really like it. It's really cool, but obviously this is not a design that's going to be for everyone. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to see this and be like, yeah, that looks cool, but I would never ever wear something like that. And that's probably actually more where I am. That's just, it's not like my style and personality, but at the same time, I really like the way it looks. And I almost wish I had more of that kind of, style that I could pull that off. But even still, I can really appreciate what they've done here. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are looking for something that is more attention grabbing, that is more exciting and out there. And if that's you, this is definitely going to be a watch you're going to be interested in looking for. If it's not you, if that's not your personality, you're probably still going to be interested in checking this out just because it's a really cool watch and they've done a lot of cool stuff with it. But let's go ahead and dive in and take a closer look. Okay, so this is one of the coolest and craziest watches that I have ever seen before. And actually, at the price point, I was really surprised at how affordable this was for what they're offering. The rose gold version retails for $529, but the stainless steel version you can get for $479. And again, that might sound a little bit expensive for a watch that's powered by a Seiko NH35 movement, but actually not that bad. But basically, every single thing about this watch is completely custom. Like they're not using anything that's off the shelf, from the integrated strap to this crazy cushion case with a lugless design, to the crown that has this sort of rubber insert in it, a mid case in the middle with this sort of black insert going around it, and then the dial is just incredible. I mean, there's so much going on here. Yeah, it's amazing. So I guess let's try and talk about everything that's in here during this section. So let's start with the dial. The dial's divided into a number of segments here, but at its base you have this kind of honeycomb pattern that looks fantastic, especially I think with the rose gold version. The indexes are applied, and they're very sharply cut out. They look great even under the macro lens, and they're loomed as well. I actually really like their logo too. I think, you know, the logo is one of the coolest logos I've seen. I think it fits really well as a stand-in for the 12 o'clock marker there. I think that works great. Now next, moving inward a little bit, you have this kind of brushed sort of stainless steel insert on top of the dial, and on that is where you've got a track for the seconds. So you can see the second hand is a disc that sort of really floats pretty high up above the rest of the watch, and it gives it a really unique effect. And the second hand is particularly cool because you can read the seconds as it goes, around that black circle. But if you look at the arrowhead on that disc, it's actually cut out. It's kind of a skeletonized second hand. And if you look through the cutout, there's actually numbers printed on there too. So there's a second way to read the seconds. Now that is basically not needed. There's no reason you would need that or even ever use it. It just looks super cool. The hour and minute hands are these kind of really broad paddle-like hands. Again, completely custom, not like any other handset that I've seen. And then the hands have loom that's all the way around, and I'll get to the loom shot in a minute. The loom, I think, is more decorative than functional. It looks fantastic when it's loomed up, but it doesn't particularly last for very long, and it's not particularly easy to read. This also has a sapphire crystal on it that has 4 layers of anti-reflective coating, which works phenomenally. I mean, you get so little reflections off of this. It gives you such a pure, clear look at the dial. It's just a real joy to see that. It almost looks like there is no crystal at all in a lot of lighting. Now, the anti-reflective coating does come with a drawback because it appears that the coating is also, at least some of the layers are on the top of the crystal, which will make it prone to scratching a little bit more than a regular sapphire crystal would be. Not that the sapphire will scratch, but the coating could scratch. The case is brushed, but it's brushed in different angles, so you're getting vertical brushing coming down depending on the side of the case that it's on, which really kind of gives you a cool look at the corners and the way that the light plays off of it. It's this kind of cushion case that's basically square, so it's a huge case. It gives you like just a ton of real estate on the dial. It's got one of the largest dials I've ever seen, but because it's effectively square, it wears really well on the wrist. So it's 45 millimeters across, which is very large for a diameter of watch, but then it's also 45 millimeters essentially from top to bottom, which is actually very narrow. And they do that by using this lugless design where the straps kind of screw directly into the case on the bottom here. So if you want to change the straps, you have to get them directly from Lytt Labs, and this is the strap that it comes with is a kind of a silicone strap. They also offer a leather one, and I just love the way that the silicone strap matches so well with the rest of the watch. I mean, it's just so the design is so incredibly cohesive, even though they have so much going on. The black strap matches the black accents on it. The sort of gold stitching goes along with the gold case. And it's just a completely integrated design that looks, again, absolutely phenomenal. Now, it's not a easy design. It's not like a simple design. It's not a classic design. It's almost like they looked at any other standard watch out there and tried to figure out a way to do everything a little bit differently. The buckle even matches the rest of the watch. You see the angles on the corners of the buckle really match the shape of the case as well. And you've got this kind of two-pronged one in there that helps it to fit on there. Now, I will say that on the wrist, it is a little bit top-heavy. So you kind of got to wear the band a little bit tight to keep it from moving around too much on your wrist. But because of the way that the band is designed and the material, it's actually very comfortable, even if it is a little bit snug, even if you wear it a little bit snug. But there you go. Now you can see on the wrist, again, it's an extremely large watch, which makes it actually really legible and visible just because of the size. But again, because that sort of lug-to-lug or top to bottom distance of it is so compact compared to what you would normally find, it actually wears really comfortably. It doesn't look disproportioned in any way. It's kind of an odd visual look for it because you have no lugs and essentially what's a square case as far as dimensions go. Dimensions on this, you're getting 45 millimeters across, and then also 45 millimeters top to bottom with no lugs on the watch. And then it is fairly thick though, so this is 14 millimeters thick, so it's a very chunky watch. It's not the kind of thing that's really going to slide easily under a cuff, but again, this is not meant to be a watch to be hidden away underneath your shirt sleeve. This is a kind of a statement piece, and you know, it's something that you're going to want to wear to kind of show off. It's not the kind of thing that you want to be subtle about. So I think the added height on that from a style standpoint is fine. Now that is going to come with a little bit of a cost as far as you know, having to be careful with how you wear it and not wanting to bang it up. But we'll get to that also later on in the review. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of the Lytt Labs Inception Prodigy? Starting with the pros, again, that fantastic design and just the way that it all comes together, I think is its biggest pro. I mean, I can't really say it enough. The watch looks incredible. It's just an amazing looking watch. But again, the design is going to be a polarizing design. But I think the design is a great one for people who are interested in kind of this more exciting kind of watch. That they don't want something classic and that's done before. They want something unique and original. And if that's you, I think this design is great. Along with that, the finishing on the components is also really good. Even looking under the macro, you know, all of these custom components for the watch, they come together really well, but individually they're well finished. They just look great, and it's just a really cool design choices that they've made all the way around it. I'll also say that it wears really well for the size of watches. So this is a very large watch with a 45 millimeter sort of width on it, but it is basically a square in its dimensions. So you got 45 millimeters wide, but what would normally be the lug to lug is also about 45 millimeters. So 45 millimeters lug to lug is actually really compact. So this is a watch that is going to wear just fine on people with smaller wrists as well. And the way that the integrated strap is designed, you can get a nice snug fit where it will hug your wrist well. And even though it is larger on the larger side and a little bit top heavy, because the strap is so comfortable and well designed, you can get a pretty good fit to it, and it secures to the wrist well. Now the watch isn't perfect. There are a couple of negatives to it as well. And for me, the biggest one is, I think, the size of the watch. So it is a large watch, and it's not because I think it looks too large, just it's a little bit obtrusive on the wrist, I would say. This is not the kind of watch you want to be wearing during any kind of active activities. You don't want to be wearing this as like a big outdoor sporting kind of watch because it is large and it is prone to getting bumped around. And that's, I think, a problem because this is a watch that is a beautiful watch. It is a watch that you don't want to get scratched up. Even though it does have a sapphire crystal, it looks like the anti-reflective coating is on the outside, which makes that a little bit more prone to scratches. And I kind of learned this all the hard way because when I was taking this watch out to make the videos of it, I took it to the beach to get some outdoor shots. And while I was there, I unfortunately managed to rub it up against a rock, which is totally my bad. I mean, again, this is not the watch you want to be wearing to a beach where there are rocks. And I did get a pretty good scratch on the side of the case and on the anti-reflective coating on the crystal. So definitely be careful of that. So this is a watch that's very tall and very large, and it's easy to bump and to brush into things. So I would not recommend wearing this to, you know, like outdoor activities and hiking and that kind of stuff. There was also one very minor quality control issue, and I noticed that when I was doing the macro shots. It appears to be like there's like an eyelash maybe or something, some little tiny hair kind of wedged underneath one of the indices. So that must have slipped through the quality control checks during the manufacturing, but that was the only quality control issue that I saw. Everything else looked top-notch and really well put together. But yeah, that's something to note. Now, there are a couple of other minor things to note. I wouldn't call these things cons necessarily, given the value that you're getting for the money. I think these are more trade-offs. These are things that they kind of had to do for the sake of the rest of the design, but I'll mention them anyways. First off, it does have a Seiko NH35 movement, which is a little bit on the lower end at this price range, but again, I think that was necessary in order to get the rest of the watch down here, so I have no problem making that trade-off. I think this is just a great movement in the watch, and I think it's completely fine. One thing that might annoy some people is that this is the NH35 movement, and you'll note that this is a no-date watch, so there is a ghost date on the watch. In other words, if you pull the crown out to the second position where you would normally set the date, you still have the option to set the date, and you can feel it doing that inside the watch, but that's not displayed on the watch at all. So that's one thing to note. The other one, it is an integrated strap, so you cannot put any straps on here except ones that you get from Lytt Labs. They do have a selection of them. They are more expensive than standard straps, but that's kind of what comes with this sort of integrated strap design, which I think is integral to the design. I think it's, again, a trade-off. And then the final thing is that the loom is more decorative than functional. It looks amazing when it's lit up, but because they have so many thin lines on there, it doesn't last very long. So you get a really cool glow for a little bit when you first go into the dark. But if you're thinking of using this watch long into the night, which, I mean, realistically, you're probably not going to. But yeah, that's the kind of thing too. The loom is not super bright and it doesn't last super long. Looks super cool, but from a functional standpoint, it's more decorative loom, I think, than functional loom. But all of those negatives aside, I think if this is a watch that you see it and you are drawn to it and you think this looks amazing, this looks cool, this is the kind of thing that I would like to wear, then I would say go for it. I don't know of anything else in this price range that, you know, has this level of uniqueness and character to it. Yeah, in this sort of $500 price range. It's a really well finished, really well built watch. I wouldn't hesitate to pick it up if this is a style that you're drawn to. If you're not, again, it's the kind of thing that I think you can appreciate the design. Some of you guys might be have a more negative reaction to the design because it is very far out there. So let's go ahead and talk about it on the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I really appreciate what they've done here. I'd love to see more micro brands kind of doing this. You know, maybe some other ones might sort of get their standard designs out first, but then I'd like to see them kind of flex their muscles a little bit and try and put something more unique like this out there so that we get more of these kinds of options. I think that's really cool. But Lytt Labs, they are only doing these sorts of watches. They're really kind of pushing the envelope, and it's amazing that they're doing it in this sort of more affordable price range to kind of bring something this unique to people who maybe can't afford the more luxury kind of watches like me and like a lot of you guys out there. So big props to them for doing that. Thank you guys for watching, and that will wrap up the review for today. We'll talk to you later. Bye.